that's me. I am a senior consultant for the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, at UCI's Beall Applied Innovation. I have a history that's both academic and in biotech, and I help entrepreneurs of all types, but certainly specifically life science entrepreneurs, to put together plans to get funding. So as I said, this is a first time webinar R&D databases, mining them to make a better SBR proposal. I'm going to try not to make it too boring, and if I get the feeling it's boring, I'll start speeding up and we'll just let you ask some Q&A. But the idea behind this is that there are a large number of federal databases that can help you improve your chances to get SBIR and STTR funding. And that's both databases run by the agencies that are about what types of projects they tend to fund, but also databases that actually can help you write a better and more competitive proposal. And we're going to explore both aspects of that today. The types of databases, we're going to explore a big number here over in the science and technology side. Pubmed, which I hope all of you who are life science oriented already know. If you're not life science oriented, then Web of Science and Google Scholar probably are your best friends. Also the patent databases in the US, the USPTO, and the Patent Cooperation Treaty database at the WIPO site. There's also market information. Believe it or not, in many publications in PubMed, there is information about health economics. And what I mean by health economics is when you read a statement that says, you know, when we get this wrong, it costs every patient $30,000, or it costs the hospital $30,000. Someone's actually added all that up and typically has published a paper. The Securities and Exchange Commission has information that's relevant to us as companies go public. Google, of course, which I won't talk too much about, I assume you know that, but also funding type databases like grants.gov, beta.sam, NIH specific and NSF specific databases. Okay. In addition to that, the FDA has a huge number of databases and sources of information that are really relevant and important for you to know about. Okay, so this is not a webinar about SBIR and STTR specifically, so this is one slide if you're new to the SBIR, STTR. This is a set of programs run by 11 different federal agencies that provide R&D funding that aim to lead to innovative new products and successful US-based small business technology companies. There is a phased approach to funding by all the agencies, phase 1 and phase 2, with amounts of money in phase 1, 100 to 400K for a 6 to 12 month project that aims to be a technical proof of concept. So the end of phase 1 should be a go, no-go decision to phase 2. Phase 2 intention is to get to a point where the product is commercialization ready. And typically that's a 24-month project with between $750,000 and $2 million of funding over that time period. Commercialization ready means different things, but it basically means getting dollars into your company one way or another, whether it's actually selling the product or for biomedical products where typically it's commercialization ready if you think there's a chance that a commercial partner might be interested in funding you. All right, the SBIR and STTR programs provide funding that it's not dilutive, that is, the government does not take parts of your company as it would for venture capital or angel funding. All right, so I want to start out, I'm doing this really in two phases. I want to look at a successful SBIR, actually an STTR proposal, to show you what's needed in a strong SBIR proposal, and then I'll go into how to find that information without spending a fortune for market reports, for example. Okay, so this will be a look at an NIH proposal, and that's because NIH provides sample applications on their website. And so today we'll look at a phase 1 STTR application that was written in 2017 by James Smith, the PI, who's of Sano Chemicals, and it's a drug discovery project, a lead compound discovery from engineered analogs of oxidiofungin. All right. So here we go. This is the front pages of the proposal itself on the left, and then of the summary statement, which is the reviewer's score sheet. And this got a score of 16, which those of you who know the NIH system, the scoring scale is from 10 to 90, where 10 is the best score. So this got a very, very good score, clearly in the funding category, and that's what you aim to have. 2017, and all right. So here's the table of contents for this proposal. As you see, it's overall 45 pages in length. But if you look at the research plan component, it's only 6 pages of a research plan with a 1-page specific aims. And then after that, some references. And we'll talk about all of that. All right, this 1-page specific aims I want to talk about because it is almost always, it's separate from the actual research strategy section, and it is almost always read first by the reviewers. All right, and very importantly, first impressions matter in the reviewer's mind. So you set the tone for the whole proposal in this beginning section. So it's 1 page, and in the blue part in the middle, I've sort of outlined the a map, a typical map of the specific aims page. You take about 1/3 of the page to say what you want to do and why. And that's, you can see over here, the actual proposal. There's, in this particular example, a statement of their objectives that's very clear about what they want to do. And then this proposal has 2 specific aims. I usually recommend 2 to 4 specific aims. And then at the end of this page, where you think you'll be at the end of a successful phase 1 project. All right. All right, so taking a look at the next section, this is the 6-page research strategy section that's split into 3 distinct sections: significance, innovation, and then approach. And those are 3 of the 5 review criteria that the NIH reviewers use to rank your proposal. And in their the Smith proposal, you'll see the very first sentence of the significance section is a statement that antifungals are really important for the treatment of fungal infections, particularly in immunocompromised hosts in organ transplant patients. And then there are 11 references, right? This is important. You don't want to be shy. You need to say that your project is important and the reviewers should pay attention, because honestly, if they don't believe that, whatever you've done in the rest of the proposal really doesn't matter. And so the decision to have 11 references to support that point, I think, is sort of interesting to imagine what it would be like if there was only one reference or two references. And instead, what the applicant, what the PI is really doing with 11 references is saying, you got to believe this. 11 people, 11 different publications over a reasonably long time period, from the late 80s to 2009, 2010. Everyone thinks that new antifungals are important, and specifically for treatment of fungal infections in immunocompromised and organ transplant patients. All right. So two important things here: a real clear statement why this project is important, and later on we'll see, is there commercial potential? And then also, it's not just, they don't just leave this as fungal. We're going to create new antifungals. We're creating new antifungals for immunocompromised and organ transplant patients, and segmenting the market already by that statement. Okay. By having these references, you create the state of the art for the reviewer. You also establish your credibility. And the way to do this is to use Pubmed. Now, importantly, this references section obviously takes up space, but it is not included in the 6-page limit to the research strategy section. So you can actually have as many references as you think is reasonable. All right. Later on, the next paragraph in the Smith research strategy section is a statement about the global market. And here the global market in 2013 for antifungals is $11.8 billion. And they reference the BCC research report within their references list. All right. And so, as many of you know, these market research reports typically cost a lot. Here, this particular BCC antifungal research report costs $5,500. So do you have to spend that? And the answer is no. And as I looked online, just using Google yesterday, what's the size of the global antifungal therapeutics market? You find, in fact, the BCC research report and the key statement that if you wanted to update that statement from the 2017 proposal, you could, right? So there's updated information from this BCC research report that is absolutely for free. So market research reports are expensive. The information is actually pretty important. And despite the fact that these are important, as the research organization markets their report, sometimes key highlights are made public, like it is here. And in addition, sometimes you can get quite a bit of information just from the table of contents, which is usually provided for free. All right. Secondly, as we keep going in the research strategy section, there are references everywhere in this report. And references really turn your opinions into facts. All right. So they say here, our current findings suggest that oxidiofungin is structurally and functionally a unique antifungal. Right. That's what they're saying. Without the reference, it would be their statement. But by having these references, it says, we think that, but other people think that as well. It again establishes your knowledge of the field and your technical credibility. And as I said previously, it's not included in the 6-page limit to the research strategy section. All right, so there are 5 components to the evaluation of an NIH proposal and their significance, innovation, approach, the team, and the environment you're working in. And so in the innovation section of the Smith proposal, they're showing you what's the state of the art, what's the current state of the art, and referencing it. And then you say in the innovation section, how are you extending beyond the current state of the art? Reference it and explain it. Okay. So the third part of an NIH proposal is really the approach section. Again, a 6-page limit to research strategy, and you are left to decide how much each of the 3 sections should have. And I strongly recommend that you be very concise about significance in innovation. And as Smith has done, put the majority of that 6 pages into your approach section. And here, 6 pages, Smith took almost every bit of that 6 pages, but 4.75 of it was in the approach section. If you look at this proposal, here, there are specific criteria that he wants to meet and has defined for success. And that's, again, good grantsmanship. Be really clear what you want to accomplish, right? The aims described and enable our group to produce a defined analog. 2 sentences, they're summarizing exactly what they want to accomplish with this funding. That's what you want to create as well. All right, so that's just generally what a good, strong NIH proposal should look like. I use NIH because they're publicly available examples. Different agencies require different formats, sometimes longer, shorter, but in the end, putting in key information, documenting it with references, being clear about what you want to accomplish, those are all good grantsmanship and strategies for success for any SBIR, STTR, or other grant application. All right, so you saw for the antifungals where they could obtain some of the market and clinical information. If you have other specific diseases, other things you're trying to accomplish, know that there are specific databases that accumulate information about different types of diseases. Here, cancer, the SEER database has incidence and prevalence of specific cancers that's kept incredibly up to date, has great historical, so you can see trends in cancer and different types of cancers. And it's just a wealth of information. In addition, CDC accumulates and stores data and statistics on morbidity and mortality of many different diseases. They tend to focus on infectious diseases, but also behavioral diseases and impacts of behaviors such as smoking and obesity. All right, so again, a wealth of information in their data and statistics sections. There are other organizations that I'm sure you know about and mind them because they have, again, information, juvenile diabetes, cystic fibrosis, and there are many, many others. And again, Pubmed, there are often cases in which just regular research papers about something esoteric will motivate the importance of what they're doing in the introduction of the research paper. So if you look at Pubmed and look at a few papers, sometimes you can gather key information about the clinical importance of your particular disease. All right. So moving on, again, databases that document what agencies have funded in the past. If we go to grants.gov, right? And if we just search grants for the word fungal, I'll keep with the Smith article, we'll see that you come up with 262 matches, and it's a pretty broad range of things. If we again, look for keyword fungal, we'll see that there are NIH specific grants that are available, and these are opportunities. So these are open grants that you could apply for from both NIH, NSF, and then DOD. And so I want to really inform those of you who are in the health arena that don't be limited as you might be in academia by NIH and NSF. DOD actually funds quite a bit of health-related funding. So trying to find solutions for their, certainly for their warriors, but also for their veterans, who get diseases just like the rest of us. All right, so that was for grants, grants.gov. Contracts are stored in a database called beta.sam.gov, and you can search again for contract opportunities that might be open. And if we do that, and again, look at the word, use the keyword fungal, we see only 12 results in open contracts. But again, defense is among them. Okay. So one final thing that you may need or people may ask you for are competitor information. So I don't have any competitors, so how do I find competitors? Well, let me just show you. If you go into the SBIR website, which is at sbir.gov, you can look in reports for who has gotten awards, right? So here's 182,000 awards in all agencies, all years. But if we then do a search for fungal, you'll see there are only 224 awards that have been made. And if we look just quickly at these, it looks like there's some agriculture, so fungi are important in a lot of different realms. But if we go over here and search for defense and for health, we'll find 11 results. And all of a sudden, there may be, whether it's diagnostics or treatments, you can find companies that have received SBIR awards that are your competitors potentially, or also potential partners. All right, so a real source, and you take those names and you could continue to monitor them, see what they're up to on their websites and so on. All right, and one final database that I'd like to talk about, actually a whole series of databases. On the FDAgov website, there is just an enormous amount of information for life science oriented companies that aim to have products that will be regulated by the FDA. There's everything from guidance documents, which can get very specific and help you understand what your path is to market, as well as information about products that are approved and on the market. You can go in and look at 510K documents, many of them redacted, but they're available for you to understand what you need to do, right? And those product plans should be one way or another in your proposal. You need to convince the technical reviewers that if you have a product that will be regulated by the FDA, that you understand where to find the important information, right? So it's just another page, this one, FDAgov in the medical devices section, you can see all sorts of information, 510Ks and different device registrations and so on. So you use this for competitor assessments again, but also for your R&D planning and what path you should take or what path is likely to take for your product to get to market. All right. And again, as I said, this is just diving a little bit further into the FDA website. All right. That is the whirlwind. It's good. I wanted to have enough time for questions. Do know that at the SBDC, we offer entrepreneurs no-cost confidential consulting. We can help you with your SBIR or STTR proposals. We don't write them, but we can help advise you and review what you're intending to submit and help you interact with the program officials. All right, with that, I don't know if we're gonna do a poll at the end now.
Yeah, we didn't do the one at the beginning, so we'll just
keep going. All right, so it's time for questions. I'll take any questions and would love to have any feedback or questions that you may have.
Sorry, go ahead, David.
My apology. Molly, is there any facility available within this portal that we can set alert and notification based on specific key phrases?
Ooh, probably. And I'm not good at that. It's one of those things, but I will say one thing. On each of these websites, whether it's Pubmed or Grants.gov or whatever, there are essentially instruction sheets and sometimes YouTube videos that help you out. So to answer that, I would go to the specific database or databases you're interested in and just poke around a little bit, because I think all of them do have that facility. And I don't have experience with it, so I apologize about that. But
thank you.
But if you do it, send me an email. Tell me how it goes.
I
might even come and see you. I have a bunch of questions that I later ask. Thank you.
Good. Happy to do that.
I appreciate it.
There's a question from Jean Fernando. Jean, do you want to just unmute? I see you on camera.
There you go. Yeah, I was asking about how important is it to have preliminary data that kind of backs up your results or even previous research?
Yeah, Jean, that's an important question, and it is a little hard to answer. I think having preliminary data gives you an advantage, right? Just flat, it gives you an advantage because it essentially de-risks the proposal. I would say as well, if you put preliminary data, if you state preliminary data, you should probably include like graphs or slides, whatever you have to accompany it. And do know that reviewers will look at your preliminary data and they will assume that how the experiments were done in your preliminary results is how results will be performed if they give you funding. So if you have really lousy gels or whatever, if the data looks bad, don't include it, right? State it, but don't include it, because they're going to assume it looks just like that. Now, there are situations, and gosh, this happens all the time. You're doing something sort of as inexpensively as you possibly can in order to get preliminary results to include, and so you don't have the right controls, and say that, right? Just fess up. We don't have this control, and we didn't do it because it would cost us 15 more mice and we just didn't have the money, right? That's the kind of thing that will be excused. But otherwise, you know, if you don't say so, they're going to assume you didn't even realize that was an important control to have. All right. Now, so I say it depends. Having preliminary data obviously is a good idea. If you don't have it, you don't have it. And if the problem that you're trying to solve is important enough, then sometimes reviewers will basically say this is important and we got to give these guys money so that, you know, they can figure out whether what they're proposing works or not. That does happen. It does happen, right? And a lot of times you can't know until you put together a good proposal and submit it, which costs you time, right? But it's a shot and you will get feedback.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay.
I see Maria on. Hi, Maria. Maria is one of our ULP residents.
Yeah, good. Hi, Maria.
So I know a lot of our residents always ask about Pubmed, Molly. I mean, it is I know a lot of the academics have access to it, but seems to be a barrier for some of for companies that are, you know, not, you know, related to faculty or whatnot. Do you have any resources in regards to Pubmed?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. First of all, the Pubmed search engine itself is free. And so you can get, so you type in fungal or antifungal, whatever you want, into the search engine, and you will get the, whatever, 15,000 articles that respond to that query. More and more, you will have access to articles. They will be, what's it called, open content. That's not quite right, but they'll be publicly available content. Always there will be the abstracts. What else? What else? But it's funded by the government. That's the cool thing. The content is often protected because it's content of the publishers. But again, more and more content is being made open. And certainly if there's an article that you really want, then contacting, almost always there will be a contact person for the article. And if you email that contact person and say, for my personal use, I would like a copy of your paper, I'd say more than half the time you can get a copy of that paper back right away.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, Maria. Oh, you're muted.
Hi, question for you. You know, I writing a grant. This grant was about pancreatic cancer, and I was writing that, and I have an introduction about the pancreatic cancer and how important it is, and a critique, not from a reviewer, but from a person who I gave it to read, a specialist person, told me that don't overstate the obvious. And I think this gentleman whose grant was shown here, I guess by putting 11 references, did a nice job by not putting the phrase there, but not, and putting the number of reference without saying too many things, I guess.
Yes, yes. I mean, being efficient in your writing, that's really important. I would say erring on the side of telling reviewers information that you may think is obvious is better than not providing that information, all right? And I also think, you know, so when NIH reviewers, let's stick with NIH for a second, NIH reviewers have these 5 review criteria, and they have 5 sections on the review form for each proposal. And for every proposal, they have to write the strength of the innovation in this proposal is this, and the weaknesses are this. And if they think it's a really good proposal, it helps them enormously if they can find in your writing, this proposal is innovative because, this proposal is significant because, and because then they can just copy that sentence and revise it as they like. But if they've liked their proposal, it actually helps them do the review, right? And so don't be shy.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Karen, I had a couple.
Jean, jump in.
Thanks. So we're a startup, and especially in this day of COVID, we don't really have the need for a specific office, a permanent office location. And I've heard that could be a problem in terms of grants. I mean, is that true? I mean, will the reviewers look down or penalize you for not having a business location that you would that you've got or are tied to?
I would say it depends what you're proposing, Jean. If you are proposing something that's bioinformatics, that you have a home office and you can do it all in your home office, I'm not sure they're going to care, right? If you're proposing to do wet lab things that should happen in a facility like ULP, and you don't state that you have access to that lab, reviewers are going to sort of assume you're intending to do this in your garage. And that's not where you want to leave them, right? So reviewers, they've seen everything in these SBIRs, much more so than in academic proposals, right? So an academic writes a grant, you know, as long as they're from UCI and they're proposing to do something by mass spec, and if they neglect to state they have access to a mass spec, well, bad on them, but the reviewers are going to probably assume they have access, right? If you're in a startup that they never heard of, and which is 99% of the time, and you're probably a person they haven't heard of 99% of the time, and you're proposing to do mass spec and you've neglected to state you have access to mass spec, you will never get funded, no matter how good your proposal is, right? Because the reviewers are just skeptical, and it's their job to say, how the heck are they going to do this, right? And unless you tell them, they're going to assume you can't. All right. And I will say, you know, especially sticking with the NIH criteria right now for a second, there are 5 criteria. One of them is environment, which is what is the facility, is the situation in which this work is going to be done. And if you're a resident of ULP, oh my gosh, I have seen so many good sort of reviews of the description that ULP provides their residents. It's just amazing, right? The reviewers are always saying, this facility sounds great, right? And that's what you want. That will elevate your score. Well, if you have a lousy approach, it's nice you get good environment scores, but grant's still going to get tanked, but it's important to have that in addition to having everything else look good.